Mark loved adventures. Ever since he was a little boy, the thrill of discovering the unknown had always captivated him. The woods were his playground, a place where his imagination could run wild and free. He loved exploring the woods behind his grandma's house. These woods were not just any ordinary woods. They were filled with mystery and wonder. Every time he ventured into them, he felt like he was stepping into a different world. The woods were full of secrets, whispering tales in the rustling leaves and the gurgling stream. The trees seemed to have a life of their own, and the stream sang songs of ancient times. Mark often wondered what stories these woods could tell if they could speak.
One sunny afternoon, I decided to follow the stream. The sun was shining brightly, casting a golden glow on everything it touched. The stream sparkled like a ribbon of silver, beckoning me to follow its path. I wanted to see where it led. I had always been curious about the source of the stream and what lay beyond the familiar parts of the woods.
The path was narrow, winding through tall trees and mossy rocks. It felt like a secret passage, hidden from the rest of the world. The further I went, the more I felt like I was entering a realm untouched by time. The air grew cooler as Mark went deeper into the woods. The canopy above thickened, blocking out the sun and creating a serene, almost magical atmosphere. The sounds of the outside world faded away, replaced by the gentle whispers of the forest. The sunlight struggled to reach the forest floor. It filtered through the leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow that danced on the ground. It was as if the forest was playing a game of hide and seek with the sun. Strange and wonderful plants grew in the shadows. Some had leaves that shimmered like jewels, while others had flowers that seemed to glow in the dim light. Mark marveled at the diversity of life that thrived in this hidden world. Mark felt a thrill of excitement. Every step he took brought him closer to the unknown, and his heart raced with anticipation. He knew that he was on the verge of discovering something amazing, something that would make this adventure unforgettable. He was sure he was about to discover something amazing. The feeling of being on the brink of a great discovery was exhilarating. It was moments like these that made all his adventures worthwhile.
As I walked, the stream grew wider and deeper. The gentle trickle of water turned into a steady flow, and the banks of the stream became more pronounced. It was as if the stream was leading me to a hidden treasure. The water, once crystal clear, now had a strange milky tinge. It was an odd sight, and I couldn't help but wonder what had caused the change. The once pristine stream now looked mysterious and slightly eerie. It swirled and eddied, seeming to whisper secrets to the rocks. The water's movement was mesmerizing, and I felt like it was trying to tell me something. The whispers of the stream added to the sense of mystery that hung in the air. What was making the water change? I couldn't shake off the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. The woods had always been full of surprises, and I was eager to uncover the next one.
The stream opened into a wide, slow-moving river. The water seemed to stretch endlessly, its calm surface reflecting the sky above. It was as if the river held secrets from another world, waiting to be discovered. Its surface shimmered with an unnatural, opalescent glow. The light danced and flickered, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. It was mesmerizing, drawing Mark closer with every step. Mark cautiously approached the bank, his eyes wide with wonder. He had heard stories of magical rivers, but he never believed them until now. The air around him felt charged with energy, making his skin tingle. He had never seen a river like this before. The colors, the glow, everything about it was extraordinary. It was as if he'd stepped into a dream, a place where reality and fantasy intertwined.
As I peered into the water, I noticed movement beneath the surface. It was subtle at first, just a ripple here and there, but then it became more pronounced. Something was definitely down there. A long, sinuous form glided through the milky depths. It moved with grace and purpose, like a creature perfectly at home in this otherworldly environment. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before. Its shape was both familiar and alien, a blend of the known and the unknown. I couldn't tear my eyes away.
Slowly, a head broke the surface. It was a moment of revelation, the culmination of all the tension and anticipation. The figure that emerged was unlike anything Mark had ever imagined. It was a woman, but her skin was the color of river clay, and her hair flowed like liquid silver. She was both beautiful and otherworldly, a living embodiment of the river's magic. Her eyes, as green as the deepest moss, held Mark's gaze. They were filled with wisdom and mystery, as if she had seen countless ages pass by. In her eyes, Mark saw a reflection of the river's ancient soul. Mark reached out a tentative hand towards the woman, unsure of what would happen next. The air was thick with possibility, and he felt a sense of destiny unfolding before him.
Hello, Mark. I have been expecting you.
You know my name? Who are you?
I am Mommy Water. This river is my home, and it is in danger. I need your help.
Mummy Water explained that the river was being polluted. Factories upstream were dumping their waste into the water, making it sick. The fish were dying, the plants were withering, and the river's magic was fading. She had chosen Mark to help her stop the polluters. Mark, filled with a sense of purpose, followed Mummy Water downstream. He'd heard stories about the pollution, but seeing it firsthand was a different experience altogether. The once pristine river was now a shadow of its former self, and Mark felt a deep sense of responsibility to make things right. She led him to a bend in the river known as Willow Creek. This place, once a haven for wildlife and a favorite spot for locals, was now almost unrecognizable. The trees that lined the riverbank seemed to droop in sadness, their leaves coated in a thin layer of grime. Here, the water ran a sickly yellow-green, a stark contrast to the clear blue it once was. The sight was heartbreaking, and Mark couldn't help but wonder how things had gotten so bad. And a foul smell hung heavy in the air. The stench was almost unbearable, a mix of chemicals and decay that made it hard to breathe. Mark covered his nose, trying to block out the smell, but it was no use. Even the birds seemed to avoid this part of the woods. The once vibrant songs of the birds were now replaced by an eerie silence. The empty nests were a testament to the devastation that had taken place.
This is where they are doing the most damage. They must be stopped, Mark. The urgency in Mommy Water's voice was palpable. She had seen the river in its glory days, and the current state of affairs was a personal affront to her. The river's life depends on it. Every living creature that relied on the river was now in danger. The dead fish floating on the surface were a grim reminder of the consequences of inaction.
As they approached a clearing, they heard the rumble of trucks. The sound was jarring, a stark reminder of the industrial activities that were wreaking havoc on the environment, and the shouts of men. Peeking through the trees, Mark saw a group of men in dirty overalls, their faces smeared with grime. They moved with a sense of purpose, but it was clear that their actions were causing irreparable harm, pumping a thick black sludge directly into the river. They were laughing and joking, oblivious to the destruction they were causing. Mark's heart sank as he realized the enormity of the task ahead. Stopping these men was just the beginning. The real challenge would be restoring the river to its former glory. Mark's blood boiled at the sight of the polluters.
How could they be so careless?
Mummy Water stopped him with a gentle hand.
Patience, Mark. Anger will not solve this problem.
What do you think you're doing? Can't you see you're killing the river?
The men, recovering from their initial surprise, burst into laughter. The biggest of them, a man with a thick neck and a cruel sneer, stepped forward.
And who's going to stop us, little boy? You and your girlfriend here.
This river is under my protection, Mummy Water stated, her voice calm but firm.
You will stop polluting it, or you will face the consequences.
The men, however, were in no mood to listen. They scoffed at Mummy Water's words, their arrogance fueled by years of unchecked power. One of them even picked up a rock, a menacing glint in his eye. Mummy Water raised her hand, and the river responded. The water, which had been sluggish and polluted just moments before, began to churn and swirl with a life of its own. Fish leaped from the depths, their scales flashing silver in the sunlight. The air crackled with a strange energy. The men, their bravado crumbling in the face of this unexpected display of power, took a step back. Fear flickered in their eyes, replacing their earlier arrogance. Even the man with the rock seemed unsure of himself now.
This is your only warning. Leave this place and never return. The river will not tolerate your disrespect, any longer.
The men, their faces pale with fear, hesitated for a moment, then began to back away slowly. They glanced nervously at the swirling water, then at Mummy Water, who stood unyielding, her eyes blazing with determination. They knew they had been defeated, at least for now, but as they retreated, the big man, his pride wounded, couldn't resist a final act of defiance.
This isn't over. We'll be back, and when we do, you'll regret ever crossing us.
With that, he spun around and scrambled after his companions. They disappeared into the woods, their threats hanging heavy in the air. Mark, his heart pounding, turned to Mummy Water, his eyes wide with apprehension. He knew this was just the beginning.
Come, Mark, we must go. They will be back, and they will not be alone.
They turned and ran, the sounds of the men's retreating footsteps echoing behind them. The forest floor seemed to rise and fall beneath their feet as they dodged trees and leaped over fallen logs. The sunlight, dappled and fragmented through the dense canopy, created a dizzying, kaleidoscopic effect. Mark's lungs burned and his legs screamed for respite, but he dared not slow down. He knew that danger lurked close behind. They burst out of the woods onto a narrow path that clung precariously to the edge of a steep ravine. Below them, the river roared, its once placid surface now a churning torrent. There was nowhere else to go. They were trapped. As the men emerged from the trees behind them, their faces twisted with malice, Mark's heart sank. They had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The men fanned out, blocking their escape. The big man, his eyes gleaming with triumph, cracked his knuckles menacingly.
Nowhere left to run now, is there?
Mark felt a surge of despair. Were they doomed? He looked at Mummy Water, hoping for a miracle. But even she seemed unsure of what to do next. The situation was dire. The men advanced, their shadows falling over Mark and Mummy Water like a shroud. The fate of the river and their own hung precariously in the balance. What would happen next?